March 2015, I woke up in the mountains of Malaysia and discovered a firm lump on the left side of my jaw. It was about the size of a chickpea, and it was painful to touch. You know when you've got a bit of lettuce stuck between your teeth, and once you become aware of it, you can't keep your tongue away? Once I felt this lump, I couldn't unfeel it. My hand kept gravitating to it. I'm sure I attempted to pop it. No luck. The next night, I had a dream. I visited a doctor, and the doctor told me that this lump was cancer, terminal. It was such a vivid scene that I wrote about it in my journal when I woke up. And then I quickly dismissed the idea that it might be a premonition. At this point, I'm 21. I've been bopping around Southeast Asia by myself for almost 3 months. I'm living what seems like my best and most spontaneous life. I learned how to make tofu. I meditated in silence for 10 days. I made friends without sharing a language. I rode on lots of motorbikes. I figured whatever this swelling is, surely it can wait until I get home. I flew home after 5 months of traveling. My parents met me at the airport, and the first words I remember out of my mom's mouth were, "Bella, what happened to your face?" She was the first of many people who seemed to be more immediately curious about this new asymmetry than my months abroad. A couple of weeks later, after 2 biopsies and many scans, I met my oncologist. Living in Portland, Oregon, I'm fortunate to have access to a great research hospital with all kinds of specialists. I remember that it was a bright blue afternoon. I'm sitting in a waiting room on the 7th floor. I've got goosebumps from the air conditioning. I'm looking out the window at the waterfront below. Boaters and bicyclists are zipping around. I envied their nonchalance. I missed that freedom to roam. Then I go back to an exam room. I sit in sweaty-palmed silence until my oncologist walks in. She tells me, not only do I have cancer in my jaw, I have cancer in almost all of my bones. With treatments that exist right now, there isn't any way of curing this. She hopes that chemo and radiation might give me a few more years. I was stunned. I had no words, no expression. Eventually, she asked me, "Are you always this stoic?" In Asia, I developed a sense of invincibility. Unpredictability amplified my experience of adventure. Now, suddenly, I'm back home, and the uncertainty of this illness has me feeling so helpless, I can't even cry. In preparation for today, I wanted to know how many other people in the United States are living with cancer. I went to Google and I started to type percentage of people who. The next 2 phrases it suggested were cheat and get cancer. I don't know how many of us would confess to cheating. I do know it's highly likely that everybody knows at least one person who's lived with cancer. Google told me that 1 in 3 Americans will develop cancer in their lifetime. 1 in 3. Even with these great odds, though, I don't imagine many of us would peg ourselves as becoming that 1 in 3. I sure did not. My body hosts a type of cancer called Ewingssarcoma. There are about 300 cases diagnosed in the US every year, mostly in people between the ages of 10 and 20. There aren't any known causes or clear risk factors. Rare and aggressive are 2 words I often hear used to describe it. Most people, 1 in 3 people with metastatic Ewing's like mine, will live 5 years beyond their diagnosis. For at least the first year and a half, researching anything to do with my diagnosis was unthinkably gruesome. I stayed far away from Google. I believed my doctor's opinion that this cancer is incurable, and that's all I needed to know. You could find me crying in my closet among heaps of hats, letters, and lotion that loved ones had been sending me. So much lotion. I mourned the loss of my future, and I was too sad about my sadness to share it with anyone. Speaking of cheating, after experiencing plenty of this private, closet-bound grief, I decided I'm not going to let cancer cheat me of my joy or stifle my expression. I don't have to give it that power. I had had lots of daydreams about my funeral, imagining how it might be. I knew that I wanted it to be lively and fun. I envisioned a sparkly and colorful dance party. Tons of people are invited, dancing lasts hours into the night. Everybody's wearing costumes. Eventually, I realized I don't have to wait until I die to experience this joy. My 24th birthday had come around. It was my 3rd birthday with cancer. And I decided I'm going to host dozens of friends and family, and we're going to have a dance party. I had an incredible DJ who played funky jazz and hip-hop tunes. He stopped the music at 11:11 p.m. It was 11/11/2017, and I made an extra potent wish. The dance floor was alive with grooves and sassy costumes. Mine was a gold velvet unitard. Guests wore temporary tattoos of my face. It was absolutely the most fun party I've ever been to, and I'm so glad I didn't make myself wait to experience it as a ghost. I might not be around for another birthday. I'm living with a diagnosis that reminds me of that every day. Considering my impermanence used to feel like a 1,000-pound backpack full of dread, fearful anticipation. Now, impermanence feels like levity. Anything beyond now is unknowable. All I have to do is be present in this moment, and then the next, and so on. Think of how many days we spend idle, stressed, not doing something because we think we've got time. I've been blessed in a way with a reminder that my time is finite. And I don't want to spend the time that I do have fearing what might happen after the existence of Bella Gazzola. As I understand it, attachment underlies all fear. Fear is resistance to some kind of change, and I think the ultimate change this society practices fearing is death. The big deal about death is it means this is all over. We've got no way of knowing what's on the other side. What if it's lovelier and lighter and brighter than anything an earthling could ever imagine? I'm curious. All we know is death is our departure from this lifetime. And when I do depart, I'd like to follow Mary Oliver's suggestion and step through that door full of curiosity. Remember that person that was too afraid to Google anything? That Bella in the closet with all the lotion? She's become a pretty good researcher. I've done 42 rounds of chemo in the last 4 years, most of them 5 days each. Cancer has given me a lot of time to study. I left college in my obsessive pursuit of a 4.0. I left the distance running that I used to think was fun. And I've really committed myself to exploring as many aspects of healing as I can. I've experimented with various diets, and I've tried therapies like Reiki, vitamin C infusions, cannabis oil, hyperbaric oxygen, ayahuasca. I've studied cancer as a metabolic disease. I've also studied my belief systems, the ways I communicate, the ways I emote. Research gives me agency. It enables me to make informed decisions and to trust that I'm the ultimate authority in the being of Bella. For as much knowledge or information as I acquire, though, I become equally aware of how many aspects of this existence will forever be mysteries. For me, there is such thing as too much information, not because information is scary like it used to be, but because information can feel like clutter. I can stockpile facts, devise an intensive treatment plan, and become fixated on a particular outcome. I realize, though, whether I'm afraid to know or I'm afraid to not know, I'm still practicing fear. Now, I'm aiming for the middle way. At some point, we've got to give ourselves permission to clear that clutter off the table, to not know. I welcome the wondering. I can create peace for myself by releasing my grip on the future. What if we could all relax into this great mystery? Might we be able to allow ourselves some ease in the not knowing? 2 weeks ago, I was having a hard time breathing. I couldn't get a satisfying inhale, and every breath came with a bit of pain. My doctor ordered a chest x-ray and determined that a tumor in my left lung had produced over 1 liter of fluid. This fluid was compressing my left lung so much that my right lung was the only one with space to breathe. When I heard this, my initial reaction was, shit. Am I getting a lung removed? Instantly, I start preparing to live the rest of my life with just one lung. And meanwhile, as I'm assuming one of my organs has failed, my body is protecting itself. All that fluid was collecting in a part of our bodies that I never knew about, the pleural cavity. Did you know that each of our lungs is encased in a protective membrane? This membrane typically contains a couple of milliliters of fluid between itself and the lung, maybe a teaspoon or so. My pleural membrane is stretchy enough to contain nearly 1.5 liters of fluid, while my lung compresses into a tiny shrivel. Contrary to my initial belief, all it took to resolve this was a doctor inserting a catheter between 2 of my ribs. In minutes, all that fluid was gone. I took a full 2-lunged breath. I felt brand new. Would you all be willing to join me for a moment in a practice of joyful breathing? No need to close your eyes or change your body position in any way. We've been breathing every moment we've been alive. I'm curious, though, if we can infuse a bit more joy into this very familiar rhythm. So let's inhale, and as we do, let's take some joy in with it, and then let it go. Allow your lungs to fill up with breath and make some space for joy in there, and let it go. Trust that you can breathe that joy in, you can breathe it out, and there will be plenty more to breathe in next time. And notice that this rhythm of breath happens without much thinking or effort, how our bodies perform this vital and simple, miraculous function for us without us needing to do any planning. What if breath could be our bridge back to joy? Jon Kabat-Zinn said in his book, Full Catastrophe Living, "As long as I am still breathing, there's more right with me than wrong with me. No matter how many cancer cells, worried thoughts, IV lines are in my body, I know I've still got access to this rhythm of my breath. For now, we're alive. We're breathing. Can you all feel the joy in your lungs?" My body knew exactly how to protect my lung, and with just enough breathing room, my lung could remember its purpose. I marvel at this innate resilience, how our bodies know how to preserve and protect us more than we could ever be consciously aware of. I thought I was going to need a life-altering surgery. Now, I'm even more compelled to trust this body and mind to heal itself. Dread, doubt, fear, these are all states of contraction. They do nothing to support our thriving. Curiosity, trust, joy, these are the practices I commit to. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to share my story of life and living it with all of you. And before I go, I'd like to underline what I know to be true. First, when it comes down to it, none of our lives is long enough. Let's not wait. Let's practice joy now. Second, we live in a time of effectively unlimited access to information. And we might create some peace for ourselves by giving up the need to know it all. And third, we can be at ease by trusting ourselves. We actually function better that way. So, if you find yourself in the midst of chaos, I encourage you to take a deep breath. This life is ours to enjoy. Thank you.